Hello and welcome to A Critical Dragon, where I talk about narrative in film, television, and in books. And today I'm going to try a bit of an experiment. I obviously, talk a lot about how we can distance an evaluation of something from a like of something, because like is only ever one criteria. And in the past, I've talked about how you can characterize through dialogue choices or through focalisation, how different characters will see a scene. And it's all well and good me saying these things and even pointing to it in a text and saying, this is what I see, because people don't necessarily see the same things that I do. So what I thought I would do is I have written 4 lines of dialogue. Each one is a different way of saying the same basic sentence. And I'm going to put them up on the screen. I'm going to read through them. And as an experiment, I want you to think not about whether or not you like the line of dialogue. That's irrelevant to this discussion. Think about what sort of character is saying the line. What do they look like? What are they wearing? What room are they standing in? What would suit them? From this one line of dialogue, can you imagine anything about this character? What sort of setting are they in? What time period are they in? Because I think isolating this element goes a long way to showing us just how powerful word choice can be in conveying character and scene and setting. And when we come across a line of dialogue and we go, that doesn't sound like the character, or something feels out of place, this this sort of exercise, just looking at something like this, can make us more aware of how these things actually work. So, as I said, it is an experiment. I don't know if this is going to work because, it's the internet. So I'm going to go through the lines of dialogue. Don't think about which you like. Liking them is irrelevant. Try and think what sort of character this is. What do they look like? What are they wearing? Where are they standing? What sort of room are they in? What time period are they in? Just from this one line of dialogue. Nay, we shall not depart until such time our fast has been well broken. No, we will not leave until we have broken our fast. No, we won't go until we've had our breakfast. Nah, breakfast first, then we'll bounce. So, like I said, 4 very simple, very straightforward lines of dialogue, all conveying the same thing of a speaker in a group, because remember, it's using we, speaker in a group, making the decision, no, they're not going to leave until they have had breakfast. And if I was going through this, nay, we shall not depart until such time our fast has been well broken. This is archaic, very formalized. This is the kind of thing that maybe someone in a high fantasy, very archaic, very formal world. Think of the level of education that we would expect. Is this something that we would expect a peasant to say or one of the noble born? And are we thinking, well, and it's a bit unfortunate because I read it, so that skews this a bit, but is this a male speaker or a female speaker? That all of these things, when we read dialogue, there's so much tied up in word choice, how they do it, the syntax, the grammar, because we shall not depart. So we shall not, no contraction there, depart, a much more formal word than leave, until such time our fast has been well broken. You can hear the archaism, that overly formal, old-fashioned sort of construction of the sentence. And we move on to the next one. No, we will not leave until we have broken our fast. So this is slightly less formal. And it's now leave instead of depart. And it's broken our fast. So again, using the more archaic form of breakfast, but in a slightly more modern construction, broken are fast. But again, it's emphasizing exactly the same thing. But is this the same speaker? Do we imagine the person speaking being the same as the one in the first example? Or can we see differences? Do we intuit that maybe there's a different social class? Or is this more about a different time period, a different setting that they are in? No, we won't go until we have had our breakfast. So now using the much more modern breakfast, we have a contraction, won't. So we won't go. That's a much more modern construction. And we won't go until we have had our breakfast. So it's a more modern construction. Because contrast that with the first one. Nay, we shall not depart until such time our fast has been well broken. No, we won't go until we have had our breakfast. So just in comparing these, you can see that the type of character saying it, the type of setting that is being evoked, the linguistic nature of speech and what it is conveying is not just about the information, but about how the information is being conveyed. And then we get to a much more modern one. Nah, breakfast first, then we'll bounce. So nah is obviously very, very informal. We went from a formal archaic nay through to a more normal sort of no. And then we end on a very informal nah, nah, breakfast first, then we'll bounce. And we see that the sentence is much more contracted. It's much shorter. We're skipping out words. It's not full, proper grammar. It's more conversational. And even the term bounce, that is a wildly modern term. So just looking at these 4 very simple examples, when you picture the person who is saying it, when you try to imagine the scene in which they are saying it, and it's not to say that you couldn't have a high fantasy where someone used the last expression, but you can see why it would be working against assumptions that we make, presumptions that we make, preferences that we have toward how people should speak and act in certain settings, in certain time periods, according to social status, according to wealth and education. All of these things we intuit, we get from how the language is deployed. So I'd be very curious to know what you think about this. Do you get a more vivid image with the different lines? Do you see how the different lines are tied to potentially different characteristics, different types of characters? And I'm really interested to know, does this sort of get across how lexical choice, the diction, the style of writing can be so important into selling a notion of character, in selling a notion of place, in the construction of world building, in making things seem natural to a character who is being portrayed, and things that would stand out. For example, if we took that very last one and we were talking about a high, noble-born lady who is very well educated, top of society in this sumptuous palace, and she said, nah, breakfast first, then we'll bounce. Would that fit? If we had a street urchin who no education, no status in society, and they were talking to their friends and said, nay, we shall not depart until such time our fast has been well broken. There are ways of getting those things to work, but in general terms, where I think our mind goes with these things, we can see things that naturally fit with the normal, for lack of a better word, the normal vision of these characters, that this is what we're getting from the lines. But anyway, hopefully this nice short video has been of interest, because sometimes when I say the prose really matters, people doubt it when I go through close readings of things and I say, this is what I see. This is how I see things being communicated in the language. And if you don't see it, it can be quite like, how are you seeing that? That's just overthinking it. And it's only by taking extreme examples like this and putting them all next to each other that I think what I am trying to demonstrate becomes slightly clearer. But thank you very much for watching. Thank you for your continued support, and I will see you in the next one.